Kamala Harris gets questioned about the border, Hunter Biden's racist text messages get leaked, and a journalist thinks the American flag is disturbing. I'm William Hall, and this is The William Hall Show. Alright, welcome back to the show. So let's go ahead and jump right into things here. So Kamala Harris was in Guatemala, and she said the unthinkable. She said something that I don't think any Democrats would ever have expected her to actually say, which is to not come to America.
And I want to emphasize that the goal of our work is to help Guatemalans find hope at home. At the same time, I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border. There are legal methods by which migration can and should occur. But we, as one of our priorities, will discourage illegal migration. And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. So let's discourage our friends, our neighbors, our family members from embarking on what is otherwise an extremely dangerous journey, where in large part the only people who benefit are coyotes.
Now, if this sounds odd to you, she flipped on this issue, obviously. That's what's going on here. Remember, Kamala Harris is somebody that kind of goes wherever the wind blows. That's who she is at her core. And there's so many issues that she's kind of changed on or flipped on. It's no surprise that she's doing the exact same thing here right now. So what you have here is where she is telling people in Guatemala, don't immigrate illegally to the United States. Just don't come, is what she's saying. Because there's all of these other issues going on right now, which is of course correct. I mean, if there's any time to, I guess, agree with her would be now. But the problem is that she's always been somebody that is just going to flip on something else and flip on another issue at the drop of a hat. You can't trust what she's going to say at any given point in time. The thing is that she, along with the rest of the Democrat Party, have been the ones that were protesting the wall, Trump's wall. If you remember, for all of those years, they were saying and voting against it over and over again. No, that doesn't work. That's not going to do anything. Stop with the wall. They voted against it at every step of the way because they never wanted our border to be secure. Plain and simple. But the thing is that she also was a massive advocate for open borders as well. Here's a screenshot showing two different tweets that she put out. So the first one was from 2017, if you're looking there, and it says, outside the White House to stand in solidarity with refugees, immigrants who are being targeted by this administration. So she's trying to slam the Trump administration and saying that, look at how Trump is treating these people. I'm standing here with these illegal immigrants. And the hashtag is no ban, no wall. Let's take a flip side here right next to it, where there's the other tweet telling people not to come to the United States. So you have this big dichotomy. This is Kamala Harris flipping on this issue. It just took a few years. Now, why is Kamala Harris flipping on this issue in the first place, you might ask? The reason why she's changing her opinion on this is quite simply because the situation at the border is a crisis. It's a crisis that can no longer be ignored. And so she kind of has to do this now because Trump was right. That's what this comes down to. Trump was right. He was right to build a wall. He was right to limit and try to crack down on illegal immigration. And he was right even after his presidency. But that's what you're seeing here. Now, the thing is that 2 million people, by the way, have already illegally immigrated since Biden took office. That's a lot of people. Those are 2 million people that are in the United States that are getting and benefiting off of our benefits from the tax system, everything else. And these people have come in. They have now taken job opportunities away from other hardworking Americans. The crime rates have gone up. Obviously, that's a part of it. And now it's something that can't really be ignored. That's why we've been calling it a crisis this entire time. The mainstream media wants to ignore this, by the way. They don't want to talk about this. I mean, if you remember just about a month or two ago, they were the same ones that were covering for Biden and the border and the kids in cages and all the stuff this administration completely messed up when it came down to the handling of the border. And these people also not required to test for COVID at all. Not required, which kind of begs the question. If you really cared about COVID-19, why in the world is it that you're waiting till now to finally say, hey, give us some time to sort things out in the United States first before we start letting in all of these people from other countries? But the thing is that, like I said, the crime rates go up, and ultimately Trump was right about this. He knew what was going on, and he called it. He said it. And now you have her flipping on this issue. But the thing is that Kamala is somebody that is always in denial. She's a habitual liar. She's someone that has been terrible. She's really not likable at all. And here she is being questioned about the border, and she lies and just seems to be taken back by the entire question.
And so the question has come up, and you heard it here, and you'll hear it again, I'm sure. It's why not visit the border? Why not see what Americans are seeing in this crisis?
Well, we are going to the border. We have to deal with what's happening at the border. There's no question about that. That's not a debatable point. But we have to understand that there's a reason people are arriving at our border, and ask what is that reason, and then identify the problem so we can fix it.
Just quickly put a button.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
Well, I mentioned it because I know Republicans have certainly come at you on this, but Democratic Congressman Cuellar has a border district, has said to you and the president, come. You need to see this.
Listen, I care about what's happening at the border. I'm in Guatemala because my focus is dealing with the root causes of migration. There may be some who think that that is not important, but it is my firm belief that if we care about what's happening at the border, we better care about the root causes and address them. And so that's what I'm doing.
We've been to the border. We've been to the border. Yeah, here's the problem, Kamala. You haven't been to the border, okay? You have not gone there. I mean, let's face it here. If Trump was actually in office right now, I'm pretty positive you'd see her at the border every single week doing kind of the AOC treatment, showing up saying, look at all these things that are happening. This is so bad at the border. Look at what Trump's messing up. That's what they do. But when she's in control of it, she hasn't gone. She said she was going to, but she never did. So she's just lying in this interview, obviously caught off guard again, where she refuses to actually want to really answer the truth about this. She hasn't been there. The thing is, too, is that she's avoiding going there. That's what this looks like. It's not just a side action or some thing where she's been busy doing something else. She clearly is avoiding going. I don't know why, but she just doesn't want to go there. I mean, maybe it's just a out of sight, out of mind kind of mentality. Stay away from the border. You don't have to think about the crisis that's going on there. Maybe that's it. But either way, it's not a good look for somebody that's claiming to care about immigration and that Biden apparently put her in charge of immigration. I don't really think she cares at all about the border. And the thing, too, is, I really never thought that I would think of a woman as being less likable than Hillary Clinton in politics. But I think Kamala Harris over time has proven to be that person. I mean, nobody wanted her as president. I mean, her primary run was horrible. I mean, basically gave up and quit pretty much before even making it anywhere close to the end. But just a real failed person in so many things in politics. And to see this is exactly why she's been really bad in politics. She's not good for the job. She never has been, never will be. So Hunter Biden has been caught in this big scandal right now. I mean, okay, well, let's just say another scandal, because really we've seen a ton of different scandals come out from Hunter Biden over the past year or two. But right now, the newest one is involving some text messages between him and his lawyer. Now, these text messages have him using racial slurs, pretty nonchalantly too, just kind of off the cuff types of responses. So this is a report from the Daily Mail. And so one of the text messages is from January 2019. And it's from this, it's with his corporate attorney, attorney, George Masiris, I think is how you would pronounce that. But it's basically where you have Hunter Biden saying, quote, "I only love you because you're black." And true that N-word. Like, just, and kind of the kind of terminology you would see a black person maybe to a black person say. I don't use that language, but you see some people kind of use that language between friends if they're, kind of black person to black person, something like that. But this is how he's referring, by the way, to everything with this guy, okay? So a month earlier, in another text message, he said, "How much money do I owe you? Because, N-word, you better not be charging me Hennessy rates." So really weird stuff, and really just disgusting text messages talking about this kind of stuff and more things that where they're talking about private parts and other weird interactions that they've got going on there in some of these text messages that would really just kind of disturb you. But the thing is that a lot of people on the left will say, it was a different time. I mean, how dare you bring up tweets from 2 years ago? Not even that long, really. I mean, come on. At some point, we have to really look at this guy and say, why is it that he is allowed to get a free pass and nobody in Trump's family or anything like that would be able to get this same kind of treatment? Because that's really what's going on here. Now, do I think that Hunter Biden is racist in and of itself? I mean, maybe it could be, but the thing really too is that at least in these text conversations, him using this word this way doesn't make him racist. I think he's just doing it because he doesn't care. It doesn't matter to him what kind of words he's using and how he's behaving and holding himself publicly or privately with people. He clearly doesn't care. This guy has been a bad actor for a long time with the other scandals that we've caught him in with the laptop and everything else. I'm not surprised. I mean, and at this point, we can't even really ask the question, what has Biden done or Hunter Biden done next? What we really need to be asking is, what hasn't this guy done? Because he's lived a very rough life, doing a lot of bad things. But once again, the coverage here is not so much about what Hunter Biden did. The coverage here is about the media reaction to this and how it would differ if this was Don Jr., for example. Somebody that the media has repeatedly tried to attack at every step of the way and yet can't find him in anything close to what Hunter Biden has done and that's been publicly made available. So CNN, by the way, if this was Don Jr., would be dragging Republican senators probably out of the House, out of their own house, saying and asking them to denounce the president's son over and over again. They would be doing that on the regular. You'd see that happen. You'd have them suggesting that Don Jr. would be put in rehab. You'd have them making the president apologize, but yet nothing. Radio silence from the media on this one because they don't care about Hunter Biden. That's simply what this is. And anybody that's confused by this, keep in mind, once again, just think about the coverage of Trump's family when Trump was in office and how any little thing that they did was covered on the mainstream media over and over again as if it was the most important thing that ever happened. You'd have Nancy Pelosi, by the way, also talking about impeachment as well. I mean, it's clear and obvious to see what would be taking place if this was one of Trump's children. But in the situation with Biden, he gets a free pass because it's Biden. That's why the mainstream media doesn't care. They never have cared about any of these issues. And unfortunately, they probably never will. It's going to be up to people like myself and other outlets to point this stuff out and be like, look, like, is anybody going to point out the hypocrisy here? Is anybody going to actually point out the fact that the mainstream media refuses to cover this? Somebody has to do it, so I'm doing it. In another story here, Ashley Babbitt, if you are aware of the incident that took place on January 6th, then you're aware that Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed by a Capitol police officer that day because she was she was in the crowd that was being let in the building by the Capitol Police. We do know that. We have video footage showing that they were let in the building. And she was trying to jump through a window inside the Capitol, and then this, what looked like a black police officer actually shot her and killed her. And the weirdest part about all of that whole video there, is that there were even cops behind her. So it's not like the Capitol police officer really needed to shoot. It didn't seem like that, considering that there were police officers right behind her. Why did he need to do that? Well, here you have it. Now, her husband is actually filing now a complaint or a lawsuit against the DC Superior Court. So this happened last week. Her husband's name, Aaron Babbitt. He said that he's actually going to be filing this claim against the DC Metropolitan Police Department. And the complaint is about the fact that they failed to comply with the DC Freedoms of Information Act. Because if you remember, the Department of Justice essentially ruled that they didn't need to disclose his information. They never needed to tell you anything about his name. Well, obviously they didn't even have a good reasoning behind it. It seemed like they were just kind of blowing it off because they didn't want to do it. Was it because the cop was black? Probably so. Was it because they're not concerned about what happened to Ashley Babbitt? I guarantee you that's why. But it goes on. So their investigation led to the Department of Justice announcing in April that it would not be pursuing charges against the officer in the shooting, saying there was insufficient evidence to support a criminal prosecution. Based off of what means? Once again, looking at the video, she was not doing anything that was illegal when considering that they were letting all of these people into the building anyways. There were Capitol police officers right behind her. Why did the guy need to shoot her anyways? And the left was for the longest period of time trying to pin all of these, oh, this cop died. Don't act like you care about cops because you refuse to actually acknowledge or put out the name of the guy that killed Ashley Babbitt. This is about politics here. The thing is that they have no problem identifying the police officers that shot black people this year within 24 hours. If a black, Hispanic person or whatever gets shot by a cop and that cop's white, their name is out there on blast within no time. But with this one, months and months and months have passed, nothing. Radio silence once again from the mainstream media, from the Department of Justice. So Babbitt claims in the complaint he filed, the Freedom of Information Act request on April 21st, asking for a slew of documents relating to his wife's death, including video footage of the incident, witness statements and documents that identify the officer or person who shot Ashley Babbitt. And by the way, to date, none of the Capitol or anybody else has released any video footage from the security cameras. Apparently, there's like 14,000 hours of video footage from that day that they refuse to release. I wonder why that is. Could it possibly be that we'd be able to identify who that person is? I don't know. But they refuse to release any of that, and they have not identified the officers or the officer that fired the fatal shot whatsoever. So we'll see what comes of this. I hope that they get some type of justice here. I mean, he has a right to at least have a name to attribute to literally his wife's death, and they refuse to supply it. So you've got this guy running around, scotch-free, nothing happening at all. And like I said, she was the only person killed on January 6th, which makes things even worse. I'm not talking about the people that died from a heart attack or whatever the left was trying to lie about. She was the only person that was killed because of the accident, what actually took place on January 6th, and it was by a police officer. And yet, we hear nothing about it. So, just a quick reminder that I do have a Patreon where you can donate directly to the show. And also, please remember to leave a review if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts as well. We have a race going on between different companies to see who can be more woke, specifically during Pride Month, because now is the time for all of these corporations to essentially try to profit off the back of the woke movement, the Pride Month movement, to make more money. And you have now Burger King. That's been the latest entry to put in their I guess you could say, just woke contribution in all of this. But in the respects of everything, they're trying to actually troll Chick-fil-A as a way of doing it. So Burger King recently launched the Chick-King sandwich, which is a part of the National Chicken Sandwich War. In a tweet on June 3rd, Burger King announced that it would donate 40 cents to the Human Rights Campaign for every chicken sandwich sold during Pride Month. The fast food chain appeared to take aim at Chick-fil-A as it promised to donate even on Sundays, is what they said. And Burger King said that it would donate up to $250,000 or 625,000 sandwiches. Now, when I first read this, my first thought process is, why this particular avenue? Once again, it's to be woke, of course. The other thing, too, is, if I'm going to give money for an organization, if I'm an organization or something like that, and I'm really looking at trying to do something that's actually going to help people out, why not give to starving children? Why not feed the homeless? Why are you giving money to the most privileged group in the United States when you are looking at the way that our laws are being shifted, the way that our society is being shifted? They have a whole month, right? That should be evidence enough that these people don't need any more assistance from corporations, but they have to do that because they want to make more money. They think that it's going to make people think they're so charitable, meanwhile giving money to organizations that have, by the way, no problem advocating for adolescents or younger to completely have sexual reassignment surgery. And that's just okay for some reason. Meanwhile, ignoring all of the actual things they could have done that are fairly bipartisan, like homeless or starving children. But once again, that wouldn't be political enough. And not necessarily political enough, it wouldn't justify what they're trying to do, which is not just to help an actual cause, it's to specifically be political to the left. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to prove how woke they are. It's virtue signaling at its finest. So on June 1st, online activists called for a boycott of Chick-fil-A after the Daily Beast reported that the fast food giant's CEO was a donor to the National Christian Charitable Foundation, or the NCF, which opposes the Equality Act, the same act that has been trying to be pushed in order to take away the rights of religious freedom. Because what they're effectively trying to say is, you have no right as a Christian to say that I refuse to accept, or once again, like that cake, to bake a cake for a gay couple for their wedding or something. Or if you're at church and, a gay person wants to apply to be minister of that church, you can't turn them away at all. Things like that is what they're basically trying to go for. But they were mad at Chick-fil-A for doing that. And as a result, you have a Burger King trying to profit off the back of their opposition to Chick-fil-A. So the thing is that Burger King has been pretty progressive for a company in the past as well, because in just last year in July, the food chain announced that they would plan to feed their cows lemongrass to reduce the amount of methane emissions from cow farts. That's not a joke, okay? If you read the Green New Deal that AOC was putting forward, this was one of the big things she was talking about. Cow farts. Dead serious, okay? But that's where you have them going with this stuff, because they're trying to take advantage of the situation, if you will. I'm not falling for it. I don't think that Burger King has any real reasoning here to do this besides to make money. I think that there's things that they could better spend their money on, or better things that they could give to different organizations. But to sit here and single this one out just because it's Pride Month, just because you don't like Chick-fil-A, is cheap at best. The fact is that they weren't really a really good fast food place to go to anyways, but really now, I mean, you're really just countering a lot of what is going on. The thing is that I just want my food, especially my fast food or anywhere else, to just be food. I mean, what happened to the days of putting up a good sandwich and letting it speak for itself, making good food and letting it speak for itself? We've left that time because now companies are more about their identification with a certain religion or a certain ideology than they are about putting forward a good product and letting it speak for itself. I mean, that's what this should all be about. It shouldn't be about anything else but the food. That's what they do. If you want to go and be woke somewhere else. I don't think most people care about how the CEO of a company donates their money. Most of the time they don't. The thing is that when you look at even the Chick-fil-A CEO, it's not like that guy is somebody that has been great in the past with Christianity, because he was the same one that was wanting Lecrae to kiss his feet for BLM. I mean, he's not perfect in any way either, but the point is let the product speak for itself. That's all this should be about. Never should be about anything else other than that. So speaking of Pride Month, Nickelodeon now has decided to run this video on TikTok and on their YouTube channel with a drag queen talking about Pride Parade.
Doesn't it just fill you with pride, showing who you are on the inside? Wave that pride flag up high, be true to you. Show your pride, wave those flags, everybody. Here we go. Red light, orange, healing, yellow is sunlight, green, nature, blue, harmony, purple is spirit, baby blue, pink, white represent transgender people, and black and brown represent the queer and trans people of color. Together. So wave that pride flag way up high. Go big, be kind, be you.
So many of you remember when I covered the Blue's Clues thing where they had the drag queen doing the pride parade. And this was kind of similar to that. If you're watching or listening on the audio version, then what you're seeing here is basically this drag person kind of dancing around as an actual real person with all of these different colors and talking about the all of the pride stuff. And of course, the video predominantly, just like Blue's Clues, also features the fist, the black and or brown fist for BLM, which is really just a communist fist that they just recolored and just took on as the BLM logo. But you have them showing that in this video as well, to no one's surprise. Now, this video actually aired on TikTok. It's on their YouTube as well. Apparently, I don't think it actually aired on their TV network. But the thing is that when you put it on places like TikTok, it's obvious who you're targeting, right? I don't think that would be a confusing statement for most people. You're putting it on TikTok to target children because that's where they're at. The kids are on TikTok. The parents typically are not. And when you do that, you are trying to socially engineer children and people of that age group. And the thing is that, remember, Trump tried to shut down TikTok because of it being just a horrible application spied on by the Chinese government, but we'll just ignore that one. But the thing is that trans activists are never trying to engage adults, if you noticed. Think about it. Let's think about this for a second. Of all the stories that I've covered over the past few months, of the trans things, where were they really targeting? Who were they really targeting? It's always children, kids, adolescents, or younger. Because I don't think that they care about the adults anymore. I think they feel like adults are too far gone to try to convince. So their best bet is to start with the impressionable. Start with the generation that, in many ways, doesn't know any better. And shove it in on them from the second they're in preschool all the way up through 12th grade, and then they will automatically feed right into the liberalized college system, and they won't be opposed to the things that are being taught there. Kids' acceptance is the priority for the left. Let's be honest. That's where they see things really changing, is by targeting the younger generations in an attempt to change the outcome of the future. And one of the things that I never understood is how in the world are drag queens actually still a thing? I don't understand this. Remember, drag queens are men that are dressing up as a caricature of a woman. They're not transitioning to a woman. They're presumed to be, I'm assuming they're gay, but they're not just being a gay man. They're actually dressing up as a charade of a woman, to make a mockery of a woman. That's really what that is. To say, I look like a woman. I mean, but they don't want to transition. These people, you wouldn't call a drag queen trans, right? But for some reason, they're allowed to be in this category where it's perfectly fine for them to appropriate women. The left does not like women anymore. It's obvious. They're trying to erase women. They're calling them birthing people. They're stripping away all the labels. They're taking everything that a woman would be good at, and they're saying, nope, it's now something else. It's someone else that's going to take that mantle now. It's this new trans person, this trans woman that's going to do that. They're erasing women as much as they can. So I don't understand how drag queens actually still fit in this anymore. But the thing is that I remember when this whole topic of discussion was just about, they're just trying to figure out what bathroom to use, people. That's it. I remember when the discussions were about them only wanting equal rights. Well, all the people that were called the conspiracy theorists, the ones that were looking at this like it was a massive slippery slope, well, they were right. I mean, we were all right. Because when they were trying to get gay marriage approved, the gay people were literally separating themselves away from the trans people. I remember that. I remember when they said, look, we're just gay. We're just like normally gay. We oppose those trans people. We're not like those trans people. Gave it a few years. We gave them an inch. They took a mile. And this is like a million miles at this point. They keep going forward. There's no stopping what they're putting in place right now. They have no intent of stopping. It's not going to stop. They're going to keep targeting our kids, our children, as much as they can to try to effectuate the outcome of the future. The American flag is something that used to unite all Americans. It didn't matter where you came from. If you were a citizen of the United States, you had an American flag, and people respected the American flag. Well, in the past few years, we've seen Democrats repeatedly separate themselves away from the American flag in general. They hate it. I've been saying this for the longest period of time, and if you've been watching the way that politics have gone, you have noticed this as well. And now this journalist has pretty much point blank said it, that she finds the American flag disturbing.
This is going to continue. We have to figure out how to get every American a place at the table in this democracy, but how to separate Americanness, America, from whiteness. Until we can confront that and talk about that, this is really going to continue. I was on Long Island this weekend visiting a really dear friend, and I was really disturbed. I saw, dozens and dozens of pickup trucks with, explicatives against Joe Biden on the back of them, Trump flags, and some cases just dozens of American flags, which is also just disturbing because essentially the message was clear. It was, this is my country. This is not your country. I own this. And so until we're ready to have that conversation, this is going to continue. What really is concerning to me as well is it's not just Democrats in Congress. I think there's a large percentage of Americans, even some of my colleagues in journalism, who are invested in some way in pretending that this isn't the threat that it is.
No, as soon as I heard her say this, to be honest with you, my thought is, look, if you don't like the flag, you can go somewhere else. But see, you're not going to do that, are you? And that's the problem here with these people, is that they always have some problem with the something that's just as benign as the American flag. I mean, it's just the American flag. We know what it means. We know what it stands for. It's for our country. But for some reason, people like to attribute some other meaning to it. They did it with the Confederate flag. They do it all the time. And so she made this statement saying that the flag represents Americanness and that it's also associated with whiteness. And the problem I have with this statement is that what she's doing is basically assuming that, just because you have an American flag, that means that it's my country. Like, I don't think she understands what she's talking about, because when you have an American flag, keep in mind that it's not about just some race or what it is. It's about being American. And I don't think there's anybody that has an American flag that is opposed to people of all races, of all that everybody here. If you're a citizen, you are here. You belong here. And we can be proud of that. We can be proud of being an American or whatever it is. But the thing is that if you go anywhere else in the world, it's not that way. It's never been that way for any other place or in other countries. Think about it. China, Africa, for example, those countries have predominant races, not just 50, 60%, like 90, 99% of people from those countries are a very specific race. China, for example, is a very good one because most of everybody, by far and away, are Chinese. Literally, their race corresponds to their place of origin, where they're at. And the fact is that I can move to China, you can move to China at any point in our lives, and we can do everything. First of all, most of these countries don't even have a path to citizenship, but many of them, even if you did and were to go through some rigorous behavior to do that, you will never be Chinese. Ever. You'll never be seen as Chinese. You'll never be treated like you're Chinese. Think about what that means. Think about Africa, for example. I mean, it goes the same way there. You'll never be African. I can go there any day, even though I'm black. It doesn't matter. I don't speak their language. I've even heard that a lot of the Africans are kind of, in a way, racist against other regions of different kinds of Africans, just because they're not from their central location. The point is that you'll never be assimilated into that society or group. But think about the United States. Our mentality is so different than any other country, it will blow your mind, because we are unique in the fact that we are a true melting pot of a bunch of different types of people, that a Chinese person can come here and get the citizenship, and they are literally American. It's not associated with a race. It never has been that way. But for some reason, people like this lady think that they can point to this and say, well, that means that it means whiteness. Well, you can come up with definitions of the flag all day, all you want. It doesn't really matter. Just because you get triggered by it doesn't mean it's true. I don't care about your truth. I care about the truth. That's all I care about. But the thing is that the flag is saying that this is our country. Yours, mine, everyone else's that's here in the United States that is a citizen. And the fact is that we're in a situation right now where Biden is in the White House and people still have an American flag up. Think about that for a second. They still believe in this country if they still have an American flag that they're wearing on their shirt, that they have outside of their house. But now we're at a point in time politically where if I see an American flag anywhere, I'm assuming that that person is a conservative. I'm assuming that they voted for Trump. Because people like this don't like this country. They never have liked this country. They don't want us to enjoy being in this country. And they see this entire country and everything that it is as being inherently racist. And they couldn't be more wrong. All right, so I always like to end the show on something kind of funny, kind of weird. Really, it's kind of creepy, to be honest with you. But you have this person on TikTok. I don't know what in the world it is. I'm just going to use it because I don't even know where to start with this. But it's a person on TikTok talking and trying to explain being pansexual.
Guess what, my patience has run out. Pansexuality is not inherently biphobic. They are both valid sexualities. Both of them. And while yes, I have seen pansexual people use that label for questionable reasons, they pretty quickly get it once you explain things to them. They do. And not only that, but do you know who likes to use specific or micro labels? Neurodivergent people. Sometimes we just have to do whatever we can to feel safe and comfortable. And using a more specific label can be our outlet for that. If you took all that energy you spend calling people biphobic and saying they're performing bi erasure and just educated them, there would be less biphobia. There would be less bi erasure. Because you've explained it and people will know the difference. I've had it with you guys. Jesus
I don't even know where to start with that one, okay? I really don't know. I'm sorry for those that had to watch this. It's really ridiculous. But I don't know. Is their goal to look like a horror movie character? I have no idea. I mean, it really looks like your goal is to scare people. I mean, how in the world do you expect to walk around society right there and not be looked at like you're crazy? You've got a pin through your nose. I mean, just some of the weirdest thing. I don't even know what that is. I'm just going to call it an it because I don't have a good name for it. But getting into what they're talking about, they're saying, oh, well, bi people and pansexual people, what they're really talking about is the fact that bi and pansexual really doesn't go together because in its core beliefs, bi and pansexual are two very different ways of viewing everything in this world. Because if you look at it in the sense of, say, the bisexual, which is kind of the way things used to be, that it was somebody that said that they were attracted to both male and female, okay? And you looked at it like that, that means that you are literally confirming that there are two genders. And that's it, okay? And now you have the pansexual people that are saying, well, I'm attracted to everything. But everything implies that there's more than just male and female at play here, okay? That's what we're talking about. And they're trying to say, oh, well, if you're for pansexual, that doesn't mean that you're biphobic. And I've never even heard of some of these terms. I mean, the whole neurological or whatever they're talking about. I mean, I don't even know what's going on because I'm assuming it's something maybe dealing with people that are autistic. It's hard to even explain that one. But the thing is that the whole pansexual versus bisexual thing, all of it's ridiculous. All of it's stupid. I hate seeing videos like this because it just goes to show that no matter what happens, you're going to wind up offending somebody because you're more progressive than they are progressive and they're doing this and they're attracted to that and this terminology and they're making up new words by the day. Stuff that if you're not paying close attention to this, you're going to miss it because it's changing so fast. I mean, yeah, it was neurodivergent. That's what they were saying. I mean, sounds like that Divergent movie. I don't even know what's going on with this. Somebody please explain this to me. I'm kind of speechless on this one because it really is a weird fad going on of people just coming up with new words and new identities and talking nonsense about it and getting so mad at absolutely stupid stuff it's kind of this battle within super wokeism that's going on. And I really honestly could care less. So I'll leave it up to you to form your own opinion of it. But with that being said, I thank you for listening or watching this show, and I will see you on the next one.